Good afternoon. This is my journey towards becoming a crucial multicultural educator presentation. Who am I? My name is Daisy Lares Ayala. I'm an early childhood special education teacher, a mother of four, a bilingual educator, and a proud Mexican American woman. Throughout this course, I reflect on my personal experiences, family history, community connections, and a professional journey. As the oldest child in my family, I often helped my parents translate and navigate school systems and paperwork because English was not their first language. Those experiences taught me responsibility, advocacy, and the importance of supporting families in educational settings. This course challenged me to think critically about my race, identity, privileges, oppression, and educational e- equity. It also helped me better understand how my own experiences influence my work as an educator. According to Banks, multicultural education seeks to create equitable educational opportunities for all students regardless of their backgrounds. My family and community story. I was born in California to a hardworking farm worker immigrant parents. During my childhood, my family moved frequently before before settling in Las Vegas when I was 8 years old. Growing up as a Spanish-speaking household shaped who I am today. Spanish connected me to my culture, traditions, and family. I also witnessed how language barriers create challenges for my parents when navigating the school system and other systems. As the oldest child, I often helped my family communicate with schools and complete paperwork. These experiences taught me leadership, resilience, resilience, and empathy for multilingual families. The documentary Raise the Power of Illusion by California Newsreel 2023 helped me understand that many of the challenges and experiences my family faced were not simply individual circumstances but were connected to a larger social, historical, and systematic factors. Growing up as a Mexican American family, I often saw my parents work extremely hard to provide opportunities for our families. Yet there were barriers related to language, access to the resources and education opportunities that affected us. Before this course, I viewed many of these experiences as personal struggles. The documentary helped me recognize how systematic and policies have historically created unequal opportunities for many communities of color. This realization followed me to better understand my family's experiences and strengthen my commitment to advocating for equity and inclusion as an educator. Sorry, get a little nervous when I'm reading. Understanding my identity. One of the most meaningful assignments in this course the was my name story, an identity reflection. Through this assignment, I learned that my identity cannot be reduced to a single category. I'm a Mexican American, bilingual, and first generation college graduate, a mother, and an early childhood special education teacher. All of these identities intersect and shape how I see the world, and how I interact with others. These experiences influence how I build relationships with students and families, and how I create my classroom where children can feel safe, valued, and respected. As a teacher, I work with families from many different cultures, linguistic, and socioeconomic backgrounds, as well as children with disabilities and diverse learning needs. I have learned that every child and family brings a unique strength, experience, and perspective that cannot be understood through a single label. Atiquettes, sorry if I mispronounced that, on the TED Talk, The Danger of Single Stories, deeply resonates with me because it reminded me how harmful it can be when we make assumptions about people based on only one aspect of their identity. For example, in education, children with disabilities are often defined by their diagnosis rather than their abilities, interests, and potential. Similarly, multilingual students are sometimes viewed only through the lens of language differences rather than the strength they bring to the classroom. As a Mexican American woman, I also understand how it feels like when others make assumptions based on stereotypes rather than taking the time to know the whole person. Addicts, addiction, sorry, Addicts 2009 reminds us that no single story can capture the full complexity of a person's life. This lesson reinforced my commitment to seeing every child and family as an individual with multi identities, strengths, and experiences. As an educator, I want every student to feel seen, heard, and valued for who they truly are. Learning about race and racism. This course pushed me to look beyond individuals' acts of racism and understand systematic racism. The video, Systematic Racism Explained, showed how policies and institutions create unequal outcomes in areas such as education, housing, healthcare, and employment. Learning about Redeling and segregation helped me understand why some communities continue to express barriers today. As an educator, we must recognize that education inequities are not accidental. We have a responsibility to create equitable learning opportunities for all students. History of segregation in Nevada. Before this course, I knew very little about the history of segregation within my own community. Growing up in Las Vegas, I attended local schools, and my own children have attended schools within the same community. However, I never fully understood how deeply racial segregation shaped educational opportunities for many families in Southern Nevada. Learning about Nevada's education history helped me recognize that educational inequities are not only national issues, but also part of our local history. Southern Nevada has a history of racial segregation that often affects schools, neighborhoods, and access to opportunities for communities of color. Understanding how these systems were created helped me see how some inequities continue to impact students and families today. As a Mexican American educator, this lesson is especially meaningful because it reminded me that many of the challenges family face are connected to larger historical and systematic factors rather than individual circumstances. It reinforced the importance of education equity, culturally responsive practices, and advocating for all students. As an educator, I believe it is our responsibility to help dismantle barriers and create learning environments where every the child has access to opportunities, support, and a sense of belonging. According to the documentary Desegregation in Southern Nevada by Vegas PBS 2015, the history of segregation in our local schools demonstrate how systemic barriers were built over time and why equitable education remains essential today. Understanding the racial wealth gap. Learning about the racial wealth gap was both educational and deeply personal for me, as many modules of this course. Before moving to Las Vegas, my family living in Before moving to Las Vegas, our family lived in California, where my parents worked seasonal jobs as agricultural field. In sorry, I'm a little nervous. Learning about racial wealth gaps was both educational and deeply personal for me. Before moving to Las Vegas, my family lived in California, where my parents worked seasonal jobs in our agricultural fields. When work was unavailable, they often relied on unemployment benefits to help support our family. Because housing was expensive, we frequently lived with relatives and shared homes with extended family members. When we moved to Las Vegas, our situation improved over time, but financial struggles continued. It took several years before we had a home of our own. Both of our parents worked long hours to provide for us, and as the oldest child, I often cared for my younger siblings while they were while my parents were at work. By the age of 10, I was already taking the responsibility at home so my parents could continue working. Although my parents worked incredibly hard, we were never wealthy, and opportunities that many families take for granted were not always available for us. This module helped me understand that experiences like mine are not simply the result of individual choices of work ethics. The course materials and the racial wealth gaps show how historical policy related to housing, employment, and wealth accumulation create barriers that continue to affect many families today. Learning about these systematic factors helped me better understand my own family's experiences and strengthen my commitment as an educator to advocate for children and families facing similar challenges. According to the course materials on wealthy inequality, historical policies such as housing discrimination and unequal access to wealth building opportunities continue to contribute to disparities experiences by many communities today. Bank 2019. Fighting racism through education. As an educator, I believe representation matters. Armstrong 2021 explained that educational materials influence how students see themselves and others. When students do not see themselves represented, they may feel invisible. These ideas connect with Lunson Billings' work on culturally relevant pedagogy. Sorry, with emphasis on honoring students' cultural identity while supporting academic access. In my classroom, I strive to use diverse books, culturally responsive teaching practices, and meaningful family engagement to ensure every child feels represented and valued. The three, the my theory of liberation. I say my theory because that's a theory that I've been picking throughout my modules. The theory of liberation is grounded in five core values: belonging, dignity, empathy, equity, and collective care. These values reflect not only what I believe as an educator, but also what I have learned through my own life experiences. For this reason, I picked this theory for Module 5 discussion. As a Mexican American woman, first generation college graduate, bilingual educator, mother, and early childhood special education teacher, as mentioned before, I understand how important it is to feel seen, heard, and valued. Growing up, I witnessed barriers related to language, access to opportunities, and representation. These experiences shape my belief that every child deserves to learn in an environment where their identity is respected and viewed as a strength rather than a limitation. I believe liberation begins when a child experiences a true sense of belonging and when schools actively work to remove barriers that limit opportunities. This is especially important for a child from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, children with disabilities, and families whose voices have historically been overlooked. When children feel safe, respected, and valued, they are more likely to develop a confidence, positive self identity, and the ability to advocate for themselves and others. As an educator, I want to create a learning environment where all children see themselves represented, where families are valued as parent partners, and where diversity is celebrated as a strength. My goal is not only to help children succeed academically, but also to help them recognize their worth, develop empathy for others, and become agents of positive change within their communities. Slater 2024 explains that transformative multicultural education goes beyond celebrating diversity. It challenges inequitable system and empowers students to in- recognize and address injustice. This deeply resonates with me because I believe educators should not simply teach children to navigate the world as it is, but also give them the knowledge, confidence, and voice to help create a more equitable world. My theory of liberation reflects this belief, my centering equity, empowerment, and collective responsibility for success and well being of children. For this reason, I emphasize that in my discussions, and I pick the theory of liberation because I believe in that. I believe that every child should have that opportunity, and that we're not just um, educating academically students, but we're building their confidence and we're creating leaders in the world. Family partnership and support diverse learners. The Family Practice Project and my work as an early childhood education teacher reinforce the importance of family engagement and culturally responsive practices. Through the Family Portrait Project, I learned that every family brings a unique strength, tradition, experience, and knowledge that enriches schools and supports children learning. Listening to families share their stories reminded me that effective partnership begins with respect and willingness to learn from others. This idea connected closely to one of my courses I'm taking as well. E- EC ECE 709. I had to do a project in that course. Is the key issue project, and my project was about multilingual students. In this project, we focus on the under under identification and misidentification of speech language delays among dual language learners. I choose this topic in my course because it's both professional and personal. As a bilingual educator and Mexican American woman who grew up Spanish speaking household, I understand how language differences can sometimes be misunderstood throughout my career. Misunderstood. Throughout my career, I have worked with multilingual children whose developmental concerns were initially dismissed because educators or therapists assumed their difficulties were simply related to learning a second language. At this time, I have also seen children incorrectly identify for special education services when typical second language development was mistaken for a disability. Research from this project helped me understand how language barriers can affect access to screening, evaluation, and intervention services and educational opportunity. It reinforced the importance of conducting culturally and linguistically responsive assessments and partnering with families throughout the evaluation process. The findings strengthened my commitment to advocating for equitable practices that recognize children's strength while ensuring they receive appropriate support when needed. The National Association for the Education of Young Children, known as the NAEYC 2020, emphasizes that developmental appropriate practices must be culturally, linguistically, and individually responsive. This aligned closely with what I learned in both Family Portrait Project and the Key Issue Project in my other course. Families are children's first teachers, and educators might value their knowledge, cultural, and language when making educational decisions. Additionally, Zoc, Soch, and colleagues 2017 found that playing-based learning supports children's cognitive, social, emotional, and language development. As an early childhood special education teacher, I see this every single day in my classroom. Through play, children communicate, do problem solving, develop relationship, and practice language skills in meaningful ways. Together, these experiences have reinforced my belief that effective early childhood education must honor family voices, support cultural and linguistic diversity, and provide developmentally appropriate opportunities for all children to learn and thrive. The educator I'm becoming. As I reflect on this course, I recognize how much I have grown both professionally and personally. Throughout the course materials, I gain a deeper understanding of how history, cultural identity, and systematic inequities continue to influence education today. The work of Banks 2019, Adiki 2009, Armstrong 2021, Lanson Billings 2021, and Slater 2024 reinforced the importance of equity, representation, and culturally responsive teaching. One lesson that stayed with me was Armstrong's 2021 discussion of representation in education materials. Armstrong explained that when students do not see themselves possibly represented in books, curriculum, and classroom resources, it can affect their sense of belonging and how they view their own potential. This was especially meaningful to me because growing up, I really saw my cultural language and experience reflected in what I learned in school. As an educator, I want my students to see themselves represented, valued, and respected in school every day. Adiki 2009 reminded me that danger of reducing people to a single story, while Lanson Billings 2021 reinforced the importance of honoring students' cultural identity through meaningful learning experiences. Together, this lesson helped me better understand my own experiences as a Mexican American woman, bilingual educator, mother, and first generation college graduate. As an early childhood special education, I am committed to creating classroom where every child feels seen, heard, respected, and capable of success. My goal is to ensure that every child knows they belong, that their voice matters, and that their identity is a strength. This course has strengthened my commitment to creating inclusive, equitable and culturally responsive learning environment where all children and families can thrive. Thank you for listening and for being part of my journey towards becoming a critical multicultural educator.